Awesome. So yeah, this morning we're talking about Hebrews 11, 1 through 5 this morning. And we started out with just kind of talking about the definition of faith that comes from Hebrews 11, 1 and 2. And then, basically from that point on, it goes into what a lot of scholars call the Hall of Faith, and which is a whole bunch of different people that lived out their lives in faith. And the Bible uses them as examples. Today, we talked about three in church, and we talked about Abel, we talked about Enoch, and we talked about Noah. That definition in Hebrews 11:1, basically it says in Hebrews 11:1, it says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, for by it the elders obtained a good testimony. And it's interesting that word testimony in the Greek literally would mean people that would come forth during the Hebrew time in the Roman culture. During court hearings, people would come forth and give testimony to the evidence of what they had seen when people had been accused of things or things like that. And so this kind of wordage was very familiar to people that were reading the book of Hebrews. And so, what the author is trying to do is he's trying to kind of bring forth these people from the Old Testament, which again the Jews were very familiar with, especially the Pentateuch, with Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and beyond, right? Especially Genesis here in particular. He's bringing forth these people from that book of Genesis to kind of present their stories in a way that they are presenting their testimonies of what God did in their lives. And so he starts out with Cain and Abel. Now, what's interesting about Cain and Abel is, well, the story of Cain and Abel goes that they both offered sacrifices to God. They were sons of Adam and Eve, the very first sons of Adam and Eve. Abel offered up animal sacrifices, firstborn and the fat of, and Cain offered up to God sacrifices from the ground, vegetables and things like that. God said that Abel's offering was acceptable. And Cain's wasn't. And Cain got upset and ended up killing Abel. Now, the Bible doesn't say why Cain's sacrifice wasn't acceptable. All it does is say why Abel's was, which was the first fruit and the fat of the land, or the fat of the animal, which basically was symbolic of the very, very best. So Abel's testimony is that he gave of his very, very best, and this was kind of an act of faith. And how, we, as Christians, God wants us to give of our very, very best. I think we got to be really careful, though, about what we kind of qualify is the very, very best, because Jesus talked in the Gospels about this widow, and it's called the widow's mite, where this woman gave very, very, very little. I don't know how much it was, but it was very, 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 very little in comparison to what other people were giving. And Jesus said that meant more to him than somebody who gave a lot, because she gave out of everything that she had. And even though in her eyes that seemed probably very little, in God's eyes it was huge. And so sometimes the very, very best is the little we give, because it's not a little, it's a lot, because it's all we got. And so, I'm not going to have time to go into the rest of, Enoch and Noah. We could have probably just stopped there with kind of that testimony, the fact that, God wants us to give the best of what we have. Now, I was even telling people today in church, now for you guys that maybe just started giving of your time, or maybe giving some financial donation to the church, and maybe you feel like God told you what to give, and it seems very little. You want to, or you wish you could give a whole lot more. I was trying to tell them that it's huge in God's eyes, because it doesn't matter how much. It's the fact that you're just being obedient to give what He's telling you to give.
Right.
And I think that's really true about everything. And God wants us to give us all of our hearts, all of our minds, and all, right? But at the same time, God will also lead us specifically on what to give when it comes to other things in our lives. And that is just like Abel. That was Abel's expression of faith. It's really an expression of our faith by literally doing those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, anything jump out at you?
I'd say a couple things. I know we're
Sure.
against the clock here, but it's kind of like, you could take the boat on the other end. Say, Well, if a lot of you guys know, Carmelo Anthony gave an entire basketball center to Syracuse. It was like $3 million.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
if Carmelo Anthony just said, "I'm just going to give you $100"?
Sure, yeah.
$100 is like 2 cents to Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
Is he really giving? Is he really giving? He's giving out of his overflow. He's not giving. He's not giving a generous amount that.
Yep.
So he's not giving his best. He's giving his
Absolutely.
best when he donated the center.
Absolutely.
So that's an example of that. And some people want to realize when it talks about Hebrews 11, the hope for in the Greek actually is not just like some hope floats. I just hope this happens. It's a confident expectation.
Absolutely.
If you look into what it says in the Greek, it's something that we can confidently expect to happen.
Absolutely.
We can confidently start. So if we're giving our tithe to God, we can confidently expect that He's going to take care of us.
Absolutely. Yep. That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do we got for your top